to...
I think I might sit further forward and I can hear
Yeah. Haere mai, welcome to Knox Church Dunedin.
Someday you'll be getting old yourself.
For some of you, welcome to Otipoti Dunedin, and some of you, welcome to Otago. Some of you have travelled far. Kia ora and welcome. Also welcome to those who are joining us online today. Ko Lincoln Ko tōku ingoa. My name's Lincoln Ko, and I'm an elder here at Knox and currently serving as the council clerk. Today I'll just be helping us along the way through this journey. It's a real honour to welcome you all together here and acknowledging and recognising Kerry's close to 40 years in ministry, and also acknowledging Mavis and the wider whānau for their contribution in that journey. We have Madeline and Harriet with us today, and also Andrew, Harriet's husband. We'll hear from Joseph a little bit later on. Many of you have formed close working relationships with Kerry over the years in many different ways. Thank you for joining us to celebrate and reflect on that. Whakawhitai, thank you. We've had a large number of people who have been unable to join us today as well, not able to attend. Those apologies are far, far too numerous to name individually, but we think of them also while we gather together today, and particularly those who are sick and really would have loved to have been here if they had been able. Today we'll see and hear from a number of people from throughout Kerry's life and ministry, and those messages cover the breadth and diversity of the roles that Kerry has filled in those years. Kerry, we're not going to delve as far back as your passion for English at Waiuku College in the 1960s, nor hear from anyone at law school in Auckland, nor your early years practicing law. We will not hear from those who you worshipped with at St David's in Auckland. Many of us know there are stories from your Scarfy days in Dunedin and your ministry training days here, as well as when you studied at Princeton University in the US. I did want to note and acknowledge those times though, as all of them in their own ways have played a formative part in the person you are, the follower of Jesus that you are, and the minister that you have been through your career. Let's hear now from some of those people from your life and ministry, Kerry. Oh, kia ora, James. Welcome. It's over the page. Yeah, come, please. So I'd like to start here in the south by inviting James Watt, who's the moderator of Southern Presbytery, to share some words with us.
Well, it's good to be here, Kerry and Mavis. I bring the greetings from the wider Southern Presbytery, and I'm probably, well, I'm the crackpot, Kerry.
We're all, man, we're all crackpot.
We were sharing, anyway, I better stick to my script because there's a lot of people to go. When I was walking in, Kerry, there's a lot of people don't want you to leave. I see they blocked the streets off. I mean, the council have been working trying to stop you leaving, but as we've just, in that last prayer, when there's leavings, there's new beginnings. And the good news for Southern Presbytery is that this is not marking the ending of your association, but the beginning of a new association, as Kerry has generously agreed to serve on Presbytery Council to represent the Dunedin and North Otago. So we say thank you and welcome. Now, Presbytery is this funny part of the church. Well, not funny part, we're all pots, aren't we? That we walk alongside parishes to help and guide. Sometimes the walking along isn't always appreciated or well done, and we stumble together. But Presbytery is people who serve us, you, both within and beyond the parish, because we all work to build and grow faithful and effective ministry. And presbytery calls, it commissions, it licenses, it inducts, it ordinates people to serve congregations, for all of us to disciple and love as followers of Jesus. And Kerry, already you have brought your wise, considered leadership, vast experience, and your clarity that helps understanding and brings solutions or resolutions to the often difficult and sensitive matters of church life. You've convened numerous commissions and you've written many, many reports, and you've always sought fairness and justice in matters pastoral, constitutional, issues of the courts of the church, of councils, and in national spheres. You've served on settlement boards and you've interim moderatorships, and you've offered so many, many words of advice to those who have asked. So we just want to say thank you for that, and that we look forward, and I particularly look forward, to working together into the future as we do that. So greetings and thank you on behalf of Southern Brit. Thank you.
Kia ora, James, thank you. Otago Southland, of course, is part of the wider Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand. So the next person we'll hear from can share a perspective on that, as well as Kerry's wider contribution to the church in Aotearoa.
I bring greetings to you, Kerry, at this time of your retirement, and to the people of Knox Presbyterian Church in Dunedin. I'm Hamish Galloway, moderator of the Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I just want to acknowledge the marvellous contribution that Kerry has made over the years to our church. And so, as a minister of the church in various places, including Knox and Dunedin for the last part of your ministry, Kerry,
I'm not sure that Hamish Galloway pauses that often for that long.
Greetings to you, Kerry, at this time of your retirement, and to the people of Knox Presbyterian Church in Dunedin. I'm Hamish Galloway, moderator of the Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I just want to acknowledge the marvellous contribution that Kerry has made over the years to our church. And so, as a minister of the church in various places, including Knox and Dunedin for the last part of your ministry, Kerry, such an important church for us in the Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and you've done a wonderful job there. And I'm thinking about your role as the Assembly Executive Secretary. Again, you brought your training and your skills to that role in a wonderful way, and I certainly enjoyed working with you as a minister of the church when you were the Assembly Executive Secretary. But also, I think about your experience in the Uniting Church of Australia and your connections across the world. And certainly as moderator over the last year or so, I have deeply appreciated being able to connect with you and the advice you've been able to give. And so you are a taonga in our church. We love you, we appreciate you, we thank you, and we wish you well in your retirement. God bless you, Kerry.
We'll go back a bit in time. So Kerry's first ministry was in Whanganui at St Paul's St Mark's. Might have just been St Paul's then, was it, Kerry? Yeah, just St Paul's then. I've joined with St Mark's. It was a few years back. So when I reached out to see if somebody wanted to send some messages, we had from 30 to 40 years ago 13 individual messages telling more than 30 minutes. We had also some sights and sound of Easter videos, which are about 53 minutes. Settle in, folks. No, we're not going to play all of those. We aren't going to play all of those, but what we have picked out is a selection of messages that capture some of the people and the memories of that time of yours in whānau.
Hello, Kerry. I am one of the few who saw you here. In fact, you might remember that the song they sang at the end was one that I think came into focus in this church about your time. I've only got one short thing to remind you of, and I hope it doesn't bring back anything but a little giggle. Remember the time that you decided that you wanted somewhere for the kids to play in the church, and so you took out a pew and they had the space to do it, and the elders were, I won't say angry, but were put out by it because apparently you didn't have permission to do it. God bless you.
I will never own up to removing.
Hello, Kerry.
No, it was the church officer.
You could remove a couple of peas at Knox.
That was you, George.
Good evening or good afternoon, whatever it is, Kerry. I will remember when I was representing Westmere Parish at the assembly at Rongatia College in Wellington. It's an assembly that now none of us who were there will ever forget. But I remember one night in the hostel how you lightened the mood for everybody when you came and told them that you had just signed up to buy a new house for you and your wife as you were about to take up a new appointment in Wellington. And the humorous comments that were made of how you could buy a house without your wife even seeing it gave great release from all the tension that had been going on during the day. It was one of the best moments I have ever spent at assembly, as Kerry explained what this house was like, and we hoped that your wife liked it.
Kerry, my favourite memory of you is that you invited the whole congregation to your wedding in Te Puke, which you probably thought was a good safe distance, but most of us came on a bus, and we really enjoyed seeing Mavis walk down the aisle to you unaccompanied. She was an independent woman and came on her own, and so I'll always remember that. And I think you will always remember us because you came away from Wanganui with 3 beautiful souvenirs, and that was Mavis, Joseph and Harriet.
And Madeline as well.
Good morning, Kerry. We're just thinking of you on your special day when you retire, and we want to wish you all the best. From the St. Paul St. Mark's Parish here in Wanganui, and we're going to sing a benediction over you.
Some familiar faces from Whanganui, I'm sure, for both of you. After almost 10 years in Whanganui, Te Waipunamu was calling, and a shift south came for the family, with Kerry being called to the vibrant congregation in Ashburton by the name of St David's Union.
Kia ora. Good morning and greetings from St David's Union Parish in Ashburton. My name is Peter Yates and I had the role of Parish Council Chairman during Kerry's tenure in Ashburton. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. Hopefully this video will suffice. Back in 1994, the congregation of St David's was unanimous in its support of the call of Kerry and Mavis and family, and following that, Kerry was inducted at a service here in September 1994. Kerry took no time to bring new thoughts and ideas to Ashburton, and one of the first was to bring from Whanganui the idea of hosting an Easter program called The Sights and Sounds of Easter. The congregation of the day enthusiastically took up his plan, and we ended up with a great and successful program presented to a huge number of the locals, particularly the local school children. It was probably both the first and last time many of us acted for any audience. In early 1995, Kerry also brought forward the radical idea that we consider the purchase of a word processor for the church. And funnily enough, we did. My, how times have changed. Throughout Kerry's time in Ashburton, numerous things were initiated, including a children's choir, and we also dismantled a mezzanine area at the back of the church to make way for 31 new seats. Kerry was always a very thoughtful, Bible-based preacher to us, and we were very disappointed at St David's and yet delighted for Kerry that after only a couple of years in Ashburton, the Presbyterian Church of New Zealand called Kerry to the role of Executive Secretary, a role that Kerry fulfilled with aplomb. I appreciate that Knox Church, Dunedin, will have a huge hole left by Kerry's retirement. To Kerry and Mavis, I send my warmest wishes and those of the people of St David's, and trust you will enjoy your retirement, although, as many new retirees find, surprising how hard it is to fit in the things that need to be done. All the very best to you both. Ngā mihi.
Kerry's passion for getting amongst it and being involved and working for what he felt was right within our church obviously got noticed. Peter mentioned it there. And noting, Kerry, that you did that from parishes in rural New Zealand. So your next calling was a national role as Assembly Executive Secretary in Wellington, and it'll be no surprise who we'll hear from next.
Kia ora Kerry, kia ora Knox whānau. My name is Wayne Mathersman. I'm the Assembly Executive Secretary. Kerry, I'm unable to be with you today, but on behalf of the wider church, would want to express to you and to Mavis our grateful thanks for all that you have done as you have served us for nearly 40 years in ordained ministry. You've served us in parishes in both the North Island and South Island. In those places, you've also served at a presbytery level. You've also served on assembly committees. You served us so very well for 10 years as the Assembly Executive Secretary. You served in Uniting Church in Australia before returning to New Zealand to conclude parish ministry today in Knox. Kerry, in all of those places that you have served us, you've done so with integrity, with honesty, with transparency. You've given us all that you have. You've given us the best of you, the best of your wisdom, the best of your preaching, the best of your pastoral care, the best of your legal mind, the best of your understanding of our Presbyterian polity and policy. We've received the best, and we are better because of it. Kerry, in all of those places, you have come to know and love people, and they have come to know and love you. Kerry, as you retire today, know that you have served us well. Know that all that you have offered has made a difference in each of those places, and to the church ecumenically, which you are so deeply committed to. You have friends all around the world and all around this land who today will be saying to you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So on behalf of the wider church, Kerry, I would add my thank yous to that and wish you and Mavis every blessing in your retirement. Again, take care. God continue to be with you. Amen.
A life of ministry completely in New Zealand was probably never likely for Kerry. More of the world needed Kerry's skills, experience and touch. A move across the ditch to work as National Director of the Uniting World within the Uniting Church in Australia was the next step in Kerry's ministry life.
Hi, my name is Sareka Gorringe and I am the National Director of Uniting World. As Kerry retires from ministry, I'd like to thank and honour him for the significant contribution he made to my church across the ditch, the Uniting Church in Australia, and to Uniting World, the Church's International Partnerships Agency, which I now lead. Frankly, it's Kerry's fault that I'm currently doing this job. Kerry came across to Australia to take up the role as National Director of Uniting World in early 2007. I encountered Kerry in 2009 when he was looking for new board members. At the time, I was entirely inexperienced both with working for the church and with working in international aid and development. And while I was happy to contribute what I knew of governance and finance, that was a meagre contribution compared to what I learned from Kerry and Uniting World under his leadership. Kerry brought with him a rich background in law, pastoral ministry and church administration. This was a powerful combination of skills that helped him drive an ambitious agenda to strengthen governance, focus strategy, and articulate a cogent theological framework for the Uniting Church's international engagement. There are two memories that capture Kerry's pastoral heart and strong strategic focus from his time at Uniting World. The first is from around 2012, the night when the staff were all working late to make sure that paperwork was in order for an audit on the next day. Kerry did not have anything to do, but he did not wish to leave the office while the others were working hard. So he nipped out and bought a flat-packed coffee table, which he then assembled on his hands and knees, ready to receive the auditors in his office the next morning. So legendary was this story that 5 years later, when Uniting World was up for re-accreditation in 2017 and I was the National Director, the staff got me to dismantle and reassemble Kerry's coffee table in order to keep the fish alive. The other story is from the year before he left Australia. I was then chair of the governance committee and Kerry told me that he was preparing to leave Uniting World, but that he felt that the structure and makeup of the team at Uniting World needed to be changed to make it fit for the future. And while another man might have taken the easy option in his last year, Kerry chose the hard work of doing an organisational restructure. He explained to me that significant changes came at a relational cost, and it was better that he pay it rather than leave it for the new director. That blend of pastoral concern and strategic focus was Kerry's gift to us, and we are still grateful. Today, Uniting World is stronger and more influential because of Kerry's work. I still regularly open documents and recognise Kerry's writing style with pleasure. Long before decolonisation and localisation were buzzwords, Kerry advocated a way of partnering with the global church for justice in a post-missionary, post-charity paradigm that was prophetic. He helped define an identity, a posture and a theology for uniting world that is still what I draw on today. I loved this vision enough that I eventually joined the organisation to be part of it. Kerry, thank you for all you've given us in the Uniting Church and the Uniting World. We wish you all the very best and hope that you will use your newfound leisure to come across the ditch again and visit us.
And here we are today at Knox Church, Dunedin, a place you were called to 8.5 years ago, Kerry, and a place we've all been blessed to have you as our minister and Mavis, you as part of our congregation. We've got 3 people from Knox who have offered to share some different perspectives of come up together, Knox whānau. Just to share some different aspects of how Kerry has been a part of our church here, leading us in that time. Yeah. Peter, if you take the chair. You're first, my friend.
I'm first.
Yeah. And you can sit or you can stand. I'm quite relaxed.
A minister once went, "Is this thing working?" And the congregation said, "And also to you." I acknowledge the people present and those who want to be here but simply couldn't be here. And I feel very honoured to be invited to speak on behalf of Knox Church today. Yes, I really need
There's a music stand over there.
something to hold on to as well, which is useful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jordan. Kerry and Mavis, on behalf of the Knox people, I am now thanking you for your ministry among us. Your ministry at Knox began on the 1st of May 2014. That's 8.5 years ago. And I remember the feelings of utter joy and relief when you were inducted. I had been interim moderator in the vacancy after the Reverend Dr. Sarah Mitchell's retirement. And it was a very heavy load. Knox Church might be a clay jar, but my goodness, it's a big one. And it's complicated. Ministry at Knox Dunedin is a very, very big deal. And you have carried it off with aplomb, a huge achievement, and we thank you for that. You have been preaching from the same pulpit that was occupied by the likes of D.M. Stewart, D.C. Heron, J.G. Matheson, and D.W. Storkey, princes of the pulpit, amazing people, great leaders, and that was a very big deal indeed. And you have always met the high standards of preaching expected by this church. Knox has always been a richly diverse congregation, right from its inception in the days in the 1850s when it met under the leadership of the Reverend Charles Jeffreys, an English congregational minister. And there were people from the Baptist movement and Methodists, other kinds of Presbyterian. They weren't all free church people. And also Methodist and others. And when Knox Church was formed, it blended all those interests, and Dr. Stewart himself was a very broad and liberal in outlook, and the congregation has been like that ever since, and you have exemplified that spirit. A broad, open view of the world and applying the gospel to people in diverse situations and bringing them together to be Christ's people. The diversity here, it's a rich, diverse congregation from different church traditions. It has always had a close connection with the university since its inception in 1869. Dr. Stewart was active in promoting it, and he was Chancellor. And its members still include distinguished academics who make an enormous contribution to this place. Scholars, scientists, students from all the faculties and specialist schools. Knox has always had a close association with the medical and legal professions, and in that way you've been a good fit, being able to understand how important it is to run a church according to good order for its peace and happiness' sake. High standards are expected to be maintained by the minister of Knox, and Kerry, you have maintained and enhanced those traditions. Your preaching, as I've said before many times to people, your preaching has been of a very high standard. Your sermons are always well researched, well put together, and very well delivered. I can always hear what you say, in spite of my increasing deafness and advancing years. Always informed by sound scholarship and new developments in theology, and they were always relevant to our contemporary life in Aotearoa, New Zealand, especially as we move to a post-colonial future. And I think this is maybe where perhaps your main contribution to this place was. Just last Sunday, you reminded us that Knox Church building rests on Maori land, Ngāi Tahu land, and that truth needs to be analysed and acted upon. We have benefited greatly by the way you have shared with us the knowledge and insights you have from your Maori heritage. We honour you in that, and the way you have spoken in Te Reo in our services, especially to our children, whom you addressed with great affection as Tamariki Ma, very touching. After your study leave near the outlet of the Waikato River, on a special ancestral place for you, you reminded us of the suffering of the Waikato tribes in the land wars of the 19th century, when the Tainui people had all their land confiscated by British colonial forces. Knox has always been at the forefront of social justice, and you have made a hugely important contribution to that. We are now in a post-colonial world in this country, and you have led us into that and shown the light of Christ on the way ahead in those very deep and important issues. Your conduct of worship has been impressive, always dignified, Christ-centered, reverent, devout, and deeply prayerful, and very welcoming to all. Been most impressed by the way you begin with the welcome. You are a man of prayer, and you helped us to be more prayerful in our service of Christ. When you came to Knox, we were a very senior outfit. There were lots of retired people here and lots of grey hair. Some didn't quite manage the grey either. But you have changed all that. You and Mavis have very graciously started a new trend. You have welcomed and entertained and ministered to a new generation of people who are now part of our church. We feel the input of a new, younger membership who are now attending services regularly, serving on parish council and involved in the life of the church, and this is absolutely wonderful. In the gathering after services on Sunday in the gathering area for coffee, there's a more youthful and vibrant atmosphere. Our church does have a future, and we are profoundly grateful to you for taking that initiative. Another benefit of you have brought to Knox is your revival of teen ministry, which is a very great achievement on your part. Knox does need teen ministry. It is far too much for one person to cope with. You made the arrangements to have the Reverend Dr. Jordan Redding as our part-time associate minister. And this has been possible because you have made room for Jordan to minister here with real benefits, and that took your wisdom and grace to achieve. I want to thank you also for your widening of our vision of the church. Your experience as a church statesman, AES, and in Australia and the Pacific have helped us to be aware that the church has a worldwide reach. I vividly remember that recently you reminded us that the World Council of Churches was having an important conference that very day. Aotearoa, New Zealand is a remote country and Dunedin is in its far south. But you have overcome this feeling of remoteness and put us in touch with Christ's worldwide community. It's a very big vision of Christ as the Christ of all people everywhere. Finally, Kerry, you are about to become a retired minister, a new reality for you. This will be a challenge for you. This is the voice of experience speaking here. You have been very kind and inclusive for all the many retired ministers in Knox and made us still feel wanted and useful. I pray that in your retirement that you and Mavis will find a church home where you feel loved and appreciated. You move into retirement with our deep gratitude for your ministry here in Knox Church. You are about to move on from being our minister, but your contributions to this church will remain. And I want to conclude this tribute to Kerry with words from 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6 to 8. I have amended them slightly, but I've reached the age where I feel I can do that. St. Paul said, "The time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. From now on there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." May God richly bless you both. You go with our profound gratitude and admiration. Thank you very much.
Kerry and Mavis. My name is Paul Crack. I am here to represent the members of Deacon's Court, including, if you might allow me just to divert for a moment, Janice Tofia, who we greatly value and greatly miss. But you may not realise it, but Kerry, amongst all the other attributes, honours, titles, is a deacon of Knox Church himself, not just ex officio, but by his request. Some might say a slight slip of judgment from the wisdom that we've been hearing about, but nevertheless, much appreciated. Deacon's Court, henceforth to be known as guardians of the clay jar. We look after property and finance. And having Kerry join us as a serving deacon has been a treasure. Your legal training, your knowledge of meeting procedure, prodigious, and we lent heavily on you. And the number of motions that were moved, I hesitate to say corrected, amended by Kerry to conform to proper practice, commendable, and we thank you for that, because those minutes are a record of decisions made by office holders on behalf of you all and become a matter of legal record. So it's very important. But not just in terms of procedure, your knowledge and appreciation of the financial process is to be commended. Budgets, forecasts, all those things that go on in the background are important and have to be done correctly. And we've been very blessed to have your support and your insight into the financial matters, which again are not just a matter of passing concern for us as congregation, but also legally important. But we can't talk about Kerry without referring to Kerry the gardener, a very keen gardener, well positioned, I might say, with a view across the garden. So many's the time when advice was offered, but in the important part, those volunteers were thanked for their work in providing what is an extraordinary green, clean space in the middle of town. It's an absolute wonder that we as a church can provide this to the people of Dunedin and wider. Goodness, how many ice creams have been eaten on the benches at Knox Church. And your interest in that has been important. You've been a link with the Knox Row community. You've been our link with the Dunedin City Council, particularly in regards to garden and the garden furniture, and that's really valued. Time doesn't allow, but the other influences that you've had on Deacon's Court, the live streaming, we've experienced it today. It's allowed Kerry and Jordan and others to speak to the world, literally. Your support for the computerisation of Knox, and the list goes on. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for being a serving deacon. You are, by the way, until midnight. There's still work to be done. But thank you on behalf of Deacon's Court. Our very best wishes for your retirement, Mavis and Kerry both. Be aware, retirement is just another word for working without pay, but it's been a pleasure.
I want to share just two things quickly, two facets of my experience of Kerry and Mavis. When I was starting to come to Knox in 2015, Kerry was relatively new here. And I remember there being a couple of young adults, and it was mostly people who were connected through family ties to Knox. People who had been coming since they were children, or people whose parents dragged them along, maybe. Growing a community of young adults was something that Kerry was really invested in. And I hope I've got this right. I got the impression it was partially because Kerry found his faith at that time in his life. And so he was really passionate about seeing students and young professionals and other people in their late teens and 20s know church community and know God too. I feel very grateful to have watched Kerry and sometimes helped Kerry to try many different ways to bring young adults closer to God. And I would say that's a good accomplishment. Here we are at your farewell, and young adults in this church are so coordinated and numerous that we're in charge of the barbecue. Pretty good. So I want to thank you, Kerry and Mavis, for the hospitality that you offered so often. And I would say that Mavis is the only person I've ever met who successfully made a vegan pavlova. Among many wonders of Mavis, I would put that high on the list. I want to thank you for your interest in our lives as young people and in our whole selves, in everything that's happening in our worlds, even when you don't understand all the jokes, and the courage to ask when you don't understand the jokes. And I want to thank you for the support that you've given so many young people in this congregation to develop as leaders. The other side that I can't resist sharing with you about is attending presbytery meetings with Kerry and Mavis. At presbytery, after I had been to one, I decided to spice things up a little bit. I would make my own bingo card. And Kerry falling asleep was one square. Mavis waking Kerry up was another square. And those were easy wins on the bingo card. You tick them off on Friday night, no problem. For someone who was in and out of sleep during the meetings, and for Mavis focusing on making sure that he was awake, both of them made a remarkable contribution to our wider church. And I really wanted to take this opportunity to honour Mavis, especially in the work that she's done in putting sexual violence out of the margins of church conversation and into the centre of our conversations. And just acknowledge that all the little pieces and motions and contributions that they made to those different church meetings have made the Presbyterian Church a more safe and inclusive space. And it's been a privilege and a pleasure to sit beside you and see that nudge come across during that process. I'm very grateful to you both. Thank you.
Kia ora, Peter. Kia ora, Paul. Kia ora, Rachel. I can't think of a better way to move to the conversation about whānau. Because we all know how important whānau are. And to start sharing that celebration and that wider kōrero, we have a message from Canada.
Kia ora from Alberta, Canada, trusting you're all warm and well. I'd love to offer a trade of whatever day has been presented in Dunedin for the 3 feet of snow, minus 20-degree weather we're currently experiencing here. But Dad, just sending you all our love and appreciation on this day, celebration of your service in both life and faith. I don't know if I see it so much as a retirement, as a pivot to many more journeys, experiences, and opportunities ahead. I think it took until adulthood for me to really appreciate growing up as a minister's son, as it took so many years to get through the pain and resentment of the mandatory OHP projected duties that were inflicted on me as a child every Sunday. But we're so thankful and grateful for the shared experiences, places and people that were a byproduct of your ministry and became part of our life. Time in Wanganui, Ashburton, Wellington, Australia, and obviously now in Dunedin, as well as short stops on the way with a Samoa, Tokelau, time volunteering in Tonga. I still remember well the extreme anxiety I felt arriving in Tonga to see the clear expectation that as Kerry Enright's son, I must undoubtedly be extremely overqualified and experienced to complete Bible study classes at the schools that I taught at. And just the amazing lifelong relationships that have come through sharing this journey with you. I know, for one, your grandson Charlie found immense pleasure in travelling to Wanganui and visiting with people and hearing the stories of your mischievous son pretending to sleep and snore during your sermons in the front row or ringing the church bell at the most inopportune times. But I'm sure today it's been again a celebration of your life and service, and just know that we love you, we miss you. I know your grandkids Charlie and Riley are excited to spend some more time with Granddad, and we look very much forward to seeing what is ahead.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alison. I've come out of the woodwork from council side. It's my privilege this morning to acknowledge the whānau family who, without them, Kerry's job would probably be 10 times more difficult. It's great to have Harriet and Andrew and Madeline here this morning, and I was wondering how I was going to mention Joseph, but he's done it quite well for himself. Very timely. But thank you for sharing Kerry with us. I want to make one comment. It's Kerry who's retiring. The door is always open to the family to keep their associations with Knox or come and make new ones. You don't have to abide by this unwritten understanding that a minister makes way for his predecessor. So please, you will be always welcome here. Busy households always need somebody to keep them running smoothly. Provide the listening ear, pick people up and put them back onto the roller coaster of life when things are getting a bit tough. And I have a suspicion I know who does it in Newington Avenue, and that's Mavis. And I know, or suspect, she would prefer not to be in the limelight, but I'm asking her to humour me for a few moments. Mavis Duncanson, she's a member of Knox. She's helped with the children's ministry. She's taken part in services, she's led services. She's been part of some of the outreach programs, particularly in sustainability, justice, environment. And as Rachel's mentioned, supports and encourages the young adults. There's probably a lot more she does, like knitting rugs, because it was a bit cold one winter, and they're in the back pew, and little things like listening to people over coffee. There are things too numerous to name them all. But that's not where it stops. She's involved in the wider church. You've had a hint of it with what Rachel was saying. Her involvement extends to presbytery and assembly through her association with Presbyterian Women of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Now, under that banner, she's the co-convener of the Presbyterian Church group, which encourages women to attend and have a voice in the UN Commission on the Status of Women. That's actually no mean task. So keep that in mind. She looks out for Knox folk at Presbytery and Assembly and the interests of Knox. But that's not all she does. Mavis Duncanson is a respected public health physician. She's a director of a unit at the university responsible for collecting and analysing data to provide to health providers, government departments, ministers of the Crown, Children's Commission. And it's not just providing the information, they meet. There's ongoing dialogue. She's had a large part in material that comes out with the Child Poverty Index, looking after the health of children and young people, raising the profile of children who need a better start in life. She's always prepared to give advice, listen, provide an opinion based on medical knowledge. And I know when I was clerk, there was this funny thing called a pandemic arrived. And I had to advise council of what we might do. Mavis was one of the people who I sought advice from. We're very lucky here, we have 2 or 3 people we can go to, but Mavis was one of those that I would go and ask, should we do this? Do you think we'll be okay? And she always had a very reasoned response for me. That was very helpful. As you can appreciate, the Enright Duncanson household is very busy. I think I said to Kerry one day, it's a bit like ships passing in the night, I think. Hopefully now they can have some respite and time for more family time. Thank you very much for your contribution to Knox and for being a part of us and the good work you do. Kia tātaranga Māori e, kia koutou.
I'll ask a bunch of people to just come forward to help us with this next part, because Kerry and Mavis, it's our pleasure as a group of folk who are going to come. Jodie, if you could come and join us, Lila, Jordan. It's our pleasure to be able to present to you some gifts of celebration. It's a celebration of you and your contributions of today's occasion, as well as your whānau. So we haven't rehearsed this, so we're kind of doing this a little bit loose. But do you want to go first, Jordan? Oh, yeah.
Well, Kerry, it's no small thing in our day and age to minister at a church that not only maintains young families, but that attracts new young families. When Kerry and Mavis first arrived at Knox, they were presented with a piece of artwork with the handprints of the children. The bit of art that we've prepared today didn't have room for all the handprints of the children who were here. So we've gone for fingerprints instead. Could I ask Skylar and Maddie to come up? The paint is a bit wet, so we're going to have to be careful, don't touch it. Look, but don't touch. Come on forward, Maddie. Do you want a hand? I'll take Maddie if you want, so Skylar can take the bit of artwork. Here we go. So we have here a sign that says, "Thank you, Kerry," and in the middle of the cross are the fingerprints of the children. Isn't that beautiful?
Mavis, I know a lot of things have been said already, and there's very few words that I can add, other than to say it, we know you love colour, and so on behalf of the congregation, here's just a little token of our appreciation.
Ka tangata titi, ka tangata kākau, ka tangata hoki hau a tihe I Mauiora. Ko whare tau nei, ko te whenua e tākato nei, ko te mana whenua ka mihi, ko ruapehe te maunga, ko hautapi te awa, ko rongo marairoa, ana hau e whare te taua, Ngāti tūmā tauinga. Ko ropata te papa, ke Raywin Takimoana te mama, ko Jodie Takimoana hau, tihe I Mauiora. Kia ora everybody. I've been given the privilege of presenting these taonga, and when we were thinking about the idea of what would be appropriate and to reflect Kerry and Mavis's time here, I thought, well, Pounamu is significant to tangata Māori in the sense that it is considered a taonga or something that is incredibly special in our culture, and it is something that is well, in Māori, in the Māori world, you cannot go and purchase greenstone for yourself. It is something that must be gifted and given in appreciation of the mana that people carry. So with that, it is a privilege on behalf of the congregation to present both of you with a taonga. So, and also I recognise you both from myself as well. Ka mihi e te rangatira e te whaia karati. Amini.
The other gift we have is Jordan will soon bless the piece of whenua, the piece of the land that we have prepared with a small plaque and some words on it. Just in terms of context for you, Kerry and Mavis, this is a piece of Port Chalmers bluestone, which is from the quarry at Port Chalmers, overlooks Tako Harbour. So it looks over the Awa. And it is the same bluestone that Knox Church is made from. So you'll see the similarity between the church and the church building and this piece of whenua. So I'll just ask Jordan to bless.
And the words on the plaque, Knox Church, o te poti o tākau, he tangata, he awa, he whenua, he kororia ki te atua I runga rawa. These words of blessing. Ka whakapainga te kingi e haere mai ana I runga I te ingoa o te ariki. He ronga mau ki runga ki te rangi, he kororia ki runga rawa. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. We're told that if we keep silent, even the stones would cry out in praise. And so we pray a blessing over this stone and its unheard voice. May it be a symbol of the eternal praise ringing out in all creation to you, O God, who is sovereign of all. Out of bluestone such as this, taken from this whenua, our ancestors built Knox Church as an expression of worship to you, O God. And so today we dedicate this stone, as a reminder of all those who have come before and all those who will come after. Your church through space and time, built on the one living foundation of Jesus Christ our Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Kia ora and welcome to our friends from the Evergreen congregation who share Sunday with us in one of our buildings. There's lots of gifts and have been presented today, but in addition to that, the residual donations that Knox folks have been made, and keeping with our whānau theme, will go towards some travel plans that Kerry and Mavis, I know you have to visit Canada in the coming year or two. So when you do that, safe travels indeed. These gifts are only possible through the generosity of Knox folks. Knox folks are generous. They're generous with their time, their skills, and their money. So whakawhitai. Thank you, Knox folk. Kerry, I'm sure that you have some thoughts you wish to share with us as well.
Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kaka, ka tangi hoki ko au. Ti hei Maori ora, behold the breath of life. Tōdi kia ora. Aku rangatira tēnā koutou. Nā mate. Janice. Haere, haere, haere. Haere hoki atu ki tō kainga o te kaihanga. On this day we remember you and all those who have died. And te honga ora, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. To those who have spoken, to those who have sent messages and greetings, to those who have offered personal notes and apologies, and to all of you who have come for this time, thank you, thank you. As Lincoln has said, a marvellous diversity of people from different parts of the city and different parts of the church, and I greet you, and I thank you for being here. I was ordained a minister of Word and Sacrament on the 4th of March 1983 in Ohakune, in the middle of the North Island, a remote congregation and a great place to start. My journey in ministry has been rich and diverse. I have experienced and been deeply shaped by the church in action across the world, nearly every continent. And I'm particularly grateful to have today, although many I could name. When I was first a minister in Wanganui, the leaders of the Assembly, Bill Best and Michael Thorley and others, put me on ecumenical. So here today is Sister Elizabeth Mackey and Sister Josie Dolan. They were the first of the Roman Catholics. And I had a lot to do with you in from those early years. Tēnā kōrua. I'm deeply grateful to those who taught me in the theological hall and to people who gave opportunity and encouragement for the roles in which I have served here and in Australia. Bridget, it's wonderful to see you here. The principal of Otago Girls High School. Let's welcome her. And Jennifer, who you've heard from before, Jennifer, the chaplain at Columba. So good to have you. I'll give you a copy of the sermon, Bridget, because you get a special mention. Not you particularly. And to all of the others who are here, thank you. And Murray Ray, who's here from the university, from the theology department. You flew in a theologian from, where is he now? St Andrews or somewhere. That scared the out of me. And Alistair Ray, former moderator, a supervisor for my Doctor of Ministry. Thank you. Good to see you. I'm sorry I'm not acknowledging everybody. Rachel and others, those who are younger than me, it's nearly everybody here, I would like you to think about ministry. I won't have an altar call now. It doesn't have to be full-time. It doesn't have to be narrowly conceived. You may find a way to continue in your existing professions. But I would really like to see some people here exercising the ministry of word and sacrament. We have people here with gifts to lead this church locally, regionally and nationally. You and I, who are part of this congregation, see them. Sunday by Sunday, we see them. So we need to help them, support them in offering leadership to the church. Like law, ministry is public. Some of the most memorable moments have involved public mistakes. On Christmas Eve, instead of saying, "Please remain seated for singing," I said, "Please remain seated for sinning." And when I put it on Facebook, the assembly moderator said that he would like me to write a paper contrasting sinning while seated with sinning while standing. And at my first assembly as Assembly Executive Secretary, I introduced the Prime Minister to the General Assembly as the Right Reverend instead of the Right Honourable. And she had the skill of looking at the moderator and saying to him, "I think this might be my seat." We are, after all, cracked pots. Today marks retirement from full-time stipended ministry, but the call never ceases, it just takes a different form. And the part I will miss most is the people he tangata and the walking with people. I want to thank you all for your love, kindness and support shown to us, Mavis and me. I ask forgiveness for the many mistakes I have made. I'm grateful for the ways my leadership has been accepted. And as I leave, I carry with me what I have learned here. And I'm especially grateful for your companionship and care, which we cherish. I want to speak now of Mavis, because I don't get this opportunity often in public. Mavis has been an incredible companion on a long journey. I am deeply grateful for her own faith, her theological acumen, professional ability and experience, teaching skills. She's an amazing lecturer. Wide experience of the church, irrepressible creativity, personal warmth, commitment to the well-being of children, her courage, her patience, and her capacity to hold me when times were tough. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kerry, whakamātaku, paitamai, awesome work. Kia ora, thank you. I'd like to conclude by thanking everyone for coming, those who've shared and celebrated. It's right and it's also proper to just take time to reflect and share and acknowledge, the amazing the amazing things that Kerry has done and the contribution that he has made and Mavis has made. I pray that we can all be grateful and carry with us in our lives the lessons and learnings we've been fortunate enough to experience from being around Kerry and Mavis. In casting our eyes forward, let us recognise the responsibility and privilege that goes with our next generation of folk, within both ministry and within our congregations, who will continue God's work in our community. It's a real privilege for Knox today to be able to extend our aroha and our manaakitanga to Kerry and Mavis, your whole whānau, and to everyone that's been come to share with us today. So please do, after we finish, join us in kai and kororo. Let's have a barbecue, let's have some fun, let's have a party.
Yes, the reason that this is taking so long is so that the rain stops.
Indeed. I think Jordan's going to lead something that we can sing together. Hey.
We'll sing the holiday, but this word's going to be on the screen.
Yeah.
Let's stand and sing.
Let's go and share in some kai. Sorry, Jody and I had a slight communication there. Jody's just going to bless the kai. Hang on.
I'll just do a quick karakia before we have something to eat. E rongo homai ngā tipu, he whakaki te teinana. Hei oranga, au e ke hui e tai ki.